Next item, number 12, criminal justice coordinating discussion and possible action.
Just some opening comments. We did have a joint meeting between the Health and Human Services Board and the Public Safety Committee back on July 11th, where we had a representative from the state come in and talk to us about criminal justice and that coordinating committee that had been established in the county before but had been kind of dormant for a while, and how do we resurrect that and get that up and running. And there were some people at that meeting here that may have some comments about that. But since that time, I just wanted to follow up on what we've done since that meeting. I did a follow-up call with Mr. Dubin, talked about what next steps should happen. He sent me some system maps, which are kind of the flow charts of the activity that flows through the court system. Suggested that maybe we take a look at our system maps so that we can see what the bottlenecks are and what can be done in those certain areas. We've also looked up the membership structure on what the previous criminal justice committee that we had, the makeup of that. There's obviously new faces in some of those positions. So we've identified who those people are and updated our email list so that we can get information out to them. We did dig out the bylaws that were adopted back in 2013, so we've got that information. There was also a report done in 2014 by the National Institute of Corrections, which suggested some recommendations based on a technical analysis that was done. And then we have scheduled the first, or the next, I guess, CJCC meeting for August 14th at 4 p.m. That was the first time we could get on the judge's schedule, so we'll get information out to the people that we've identified in that membership structure about that meeting, and talk about some of those things that have been adopted before and what we can do with that information. That technical assistance report that was done back in 2014 did suggest a revision to the mission statement. There was a mission statement adopted within those bylaws, I believe. In that report, they suggested a couple of things. I don't think any of that had been dealt with since that study was done in 2014, but they did have a suggestion for a revised mission statement, as well as some suggested areas of focus, including the development of recommendations to reduce daily jail population, develop recommendations that may reduce substance abuse-related criminal activity and improve services available for offenders with substance abuse and mental health issues, and develop approaches that will reduce the number of Native Americans involved in the criminal justice system, and develop recommendations that can improve the cooperation and collaboration between Sawyer County leaders and the LCO tribal leaders on a variety of criminal justice matters. And those are just some of the things that came, those were the three top things that came out of that study back in 2014. The thought is that we would ask the players on the committee now what they view as important in the process, then we can identify those things that would need to fall out of the budget if we're going to add that into the budget, and suggested that perhaps, that as well as the other things that are contemplated out there roll through that process. In the meantime, we can use existing staff to help coordinate these meetings, and in fact, personnel from the Health and Human Services Department did help dig out this information, set up the meeting, will help identify the things that had been done previously so that we can talk about those and set an agenda for that first meeting and meetings beyond. So I think we can get through the first meeting in August and maybe September, just kind of going over the structure and what needs to happen. A coordinator then can be contemplated within the budget and hired if needed, and we can proceed in that fashion if that's agreeable with the board. That might give us a good place to start anyway.
Well, I think it might be helpful if you do the brief introduction you did for the Public Safety and Health and Human Services Committee.
Yeah, topics.
It was, I can't remember because you said it. Well, I'll go ahead and visit a little bit because a lot of the members of the board haven't been part of either Human Services board meetings or public safety. And the conversations have been going on in those committees, well, forever. I mean, Bill and what's your name? Dale. Have been part of public safety for a long time. So they were around originally when the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee was functioning. And now it hasn't functioned for 4 or 5. Well, we had a meeting early on this year, and then people are just really stressed within those public official departments. The sheriff's department, the judge, and the DA. Their caseloads are astronomical, and I'm sure most of you got the note from Judge Apple today about what's currently going on with his caseload and how we're #1 in the state for getting another judge because of his caseload. The Sheriff's Department has been really helpful to us in public safety because we get monthly jailers reports, and so we see the number of prisoners that we have, the number of offenders, and that so many of them, and that we have jail beds, we have 104 jail beds. And I haven't kept all of Lieutenant Severa's reports, but in 2016, our high numbers in the jail were 89, our lowest numbers were 68. And we were outsourcing a total of 61 prisoners over a period of like 6 months. I didn't have all the reports. And we ranged from 1 person to 20 people that went to other counties to go to jail. And that costs, the expenditure of that is $40 a day. So if that's 20 people in Bayfield County, that's a lot of money. Our out-of-county costs, so in 2017 so far, have been $70,000. And our out-of-county costs for 6 months in 2016 were $140,000. If my math is correct, and you know it's not the greatest skill I have, so we are spending money. And I talked to Jim Crandall yesterday from Bayfield County, because he's their criminal justice coordinator, and he said, "You're paying Bayfield's rent." So this criminal justice idea, if you've had a chance to read the resolution, I think it's a pretty good summary of why we want to have a criminal justice committee, what the goals are, what we can do about it, and why we would want to join 52 other counties in Wisconsin that have been operating this program for over 10 years. And why we haven't done that is history, but we have the opportunity now to really pay attention to what we can do. And at the outset, the Sheriff's Department, the police officers are doing an assessment of people as they make an arrest. Is this a person who needs to go to jail? Or is this a person who can be diverted from jail with services? So that's the place to start. The place to end is our people who are coming out of jail. Do they have any support services? Do they have anybody to come home to? Or is there anything in our county that's going to assist them? Anybody who's done any kind of volunteering in the jail, whether it be GED or faith-based ministries, will report people don't really want to get out of jail because they don't have anything to come out to. So, we have a double complexion. And we only have about 30 people a month out of 100 who are in jail who are actually sentenced, who are serving a sentence. The other people are on cash bonds, they're on probation and parole holds. So if we want, and the police officers can be involved in looking at what are low-risk crimes, and I don't know the answer to that definition. Like, what are low-risk crimes? But I think we can kind of make it up in our head and maybe refer to Craig here to help us with that a lot. I know that one of Lieutenant Sedera's concerns about if people are diverted from jail, what do we have in the community to support them? And I know the sheriff has said that he's not dealing with criminals so much as he is with people who are mentally ill.
I'll speak briefly. I agree. There are people in jail that don't belong in jail because of AODA issues and/or health issues. Society, I think in general, our answer has been, if somebody has those issues, let's just stick them in jail and warehouse them. That doesn't solve the problem, the problems that they have. So yeah, we've been. I was with the police department. I've participated in the regional committee. We're arrested. The sheriff, I can speak for Sheriff Kelsey, we want to be on board with this. I think in the long term, it could save us money, save us all money, because of the cost of housing inmates, transporting the whole 9 yards. And the idea is to not see these folks back again time after time after time. For whatever reason that is, it'd be nice to not see them back. So yeah, I think it's definitely a worthwhile venture. We'll take the county board, we'll take all of us that are involved in it to jump on board and try to make it work. So we support it, and I think it potentially can be a great thing. There are other criminal justice training committees in the area that have done really great things. I believe the county tends to be held up as a shining example of that. So yeah, the potential's there. It's just going to take all of us to agree to jump on board and try to make it work. So.
No other county who's been working with this kind of program has ever abandoned the program.
Yes.
Several things, Mr. Chairman. Is this the old program that we had where people were sentences to do community service, and then they would do the community service and they'd come up with a lighter sentence? Is that this program?
I know that is the basic concept of criminal justice committee. It's a committee that works with law enforcement, with prosecution, with the OEDA folks to try to, how can we better serve these people? How can we better serve the public, get these people the help they need, give them treatment, whatever the case may be, so we try to reduce that recidivism where they come back time again. That I would assume would be a more of a judicial sentencing type of a thing where the sentence could be in lieu of 10 days in jail, you do X hours of community service. I think that's what you're referring to. That's not what this committee does.
I don't know about all these programs. Right now, we got that STOP program. I've asked several times, most of you probably might remember, is the program working? Why are we running a program that we don't have some statistics to know if the thing is working? I can't get anything from anybody about it, which in my logic, it ain't working. So, I am not gonna vote for something that's gonna be at the same level of not working. Is this a program that we can have on paper, a percentage of increase or decrease, or it's working, or it costs too much money before I vote on this?
Yes.
Was on that original CJCC council committee, and the gentleman that came from South Carolina, one of his big observations was we need to do data analysis. And the CJCC has all these different people from the different organizations, the sheriff's department, DA, the judge, service providers, all those together. And one of the examples he gave, like with the jail, is identify why are the people in jail? Get a demographic picture of that. And one example he gave with a county that he consulted with is that they found that they had a whole lot of people with operating after revocation that were in jail. So what their CJCC did was put together a program to help those people get their license before they get nailed out on the road, and it reduced their jail population. So one of the things he said is you have to have a good data analysis of the jail population, and then see what those issues are, and then develop programs around that. That's what the CJCC does. And it's all the key players getting together and agreeing about this is what we're going to do. That's the best explanation I have.
Mr. Chair.
Are we gonna be able to figure out someday if it's working?
The CJCC?
Like, yeah, whatever.
Yes. Mr. Chair. So I agree with what Mr. Rehobock has stated, and that is probably the best example of what the rubric would be to determine its success. This committee, has too many letters and too many C's in it, but this committee will serve would serve as an advisory board, but it's only going to succeed if there's a commitment to put a staff person in there. Not taking staff from somewhere else, because we've already, every Health and Human Service meeting, we hear about how we don't have enough people to we have overworked staff already. We hear this in public safety in terms of the jailers and officers and all of that. What this committee does, and what it's going to need is, it's going to need a coordinator that can work with the different entities, the judge's office, the DA's office, Health and Human Services, the law enforcement, to kind of coordinate and bring these ideas so that you have an example, exactly how Paul just had said. When you look at your demographic and you find a certain trend, you address, this committee can then work with, it branches into those different areas to develop a solution, because if you go to the judge's office and say, how can we get more people out of jail? He's going to say, quit, he can't give you an answer, because his job is to not put people in jail. It's to sentence the people who come in front and to be an arbitrator and a fact finder. When you go to the jailer and say, how can we get people out of jail? You're going to say, it's not up to me. My job is to make sure that they're taken care of when they're here and, get them out and they're treated properly. When you go to the DA's office and how do you get people out of jail, he's not going to be able to stay, that person would not be able to address that directly, because their job is to prosecute the crimes and act with the information. But if you get this committee together, you can put the decision makers in a room, and then you got a coordinator who can work on this, and then they can say, well, look, we have people with, who are operating after revocation, who are sitting in jail because they're being picked up either on warrants or whatever else. And then we can say, well, if we have this trend, why don't we try to do this? And then what you're going to see, and you probably won't see it, because as soon as there's not going to be a big shiny parade that's going to happen at the end of this. What's going to happen is we're going to have a reallocation of how many people are in jail. We're not going to send people up to Bayfield. We're not going to be paying the exorbitant costs to house the one thing that's been coming up at the public safety is the exorbitant amount of female inmates in jail. Maybe there's something that could be assigned to figure out what's going on there. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of people are in there under AODA type of situations. So rather than making them sit in jail where there's no services being offered to them, maybe we can get a diversion program and working with Health and Human Services to get them off to a treatment program. And you're going to see a reduction in the jail population. Now we're hammering on the jail part, but there's other things that come into play there. So if you have people that are coming into the criminal justice system who are operating Rev is one, licensing is another one. When you've got drinking and underage drinking in the STOP program, that could be something that, actually I think there's been some success with the STOP program, and the lack of the county support is actually shifting the cost and the burden of that to the people who are being sentenced, and which make a disparate impact on people who are not so, don't have the economics or the money to be able to pay for to get out of jail free thing. So I mean, this committee is a needed resource, but it's trying to explain. It's difficult to quantify, only because there's such a demand of getting instant results. You have to get them together and allow them to work. The previous incarnation, which I served on, had some difficulty because we got bogged down in the procedure, and it wore out the people who were trying to free up their time to try to participate. We have a commitment and we have a renewed sense of purpose. I think if we can get someone in there who can coordinate, and it doesn't have to fall on staff members who are already committed. It doesn't have to fall on the judge. It doesn't have to fall on me. It doesn't have to fall on other people. But we need that commitment. There has to be a commitment. We either do it all the way or don't do it at all, because if we do these half measures, we're going to find out exactly what Mr. Bassett is saying, and we're going to have these failed endeavors. And that's the reason why we had this difficulty getting this, even reselling this, because we had a half measure that didn't that didn't get the commitment. And the commitment's gonna come in the form of resources, and I think that we also need to make sure that when we do this commitment, there is, if you look on here, one of the things that is a targeted population is Native Americans. Now, not, Native Americans doesn't mean tribal members out at LCO. It just means that there's people who have identified politically as Indians that are being either incarcerated or in the system. But I think that if you reached out and asked the tribe if they're willing to participate, you might find either matching funds or some kind of commitment of resources that would help. I'm not gonna speak for the tribe, but I'm gonna say that we have to make this effort, because we've got so many people sitting in jail that we're making it a cash cow for other counties who are taking our tax dollars. And if we're going to parse down, $1,500 Pathfinder, I'm tired of paying $70,000 up to Bayfield so that our prisoners who don't need to be in jail are not being housed there. Yes.
We had a program in this county that people were sentenced to do community service in lieu of going to jail. It was a simple program and it worked. What happened to that program? Where did it go? It just disappeared. The folks had to go and volunteer, well, not volunteer, they were sentenced to it, but they went to non-profit organizations, churches, county boards, fire departments, city, whatever. And they worked hours of service to help the community. It didn't cost anybody a dime other than maybe getting a token to get there on the bus. And the program kept people out of jail, and it just sort of disappeared. I don't know, I even thought of that till just
Yeah, well,
now.
let's find out. Let's find out what happened, Jim. If there's a simple program that we can reintroduce, then let's do that. Okay?
Dale, do you remember who that dark-haired lady, she quit here and went and got a, what?
Diane Neighbor had that program.
She's
Oh,
still
she
here.
did it just after with the other one left. Okay. That program, what, do you know the name of it, or what?
Community service program.
Was it,
She still operates. She still operates that.
no,
She still operates
She
that?
operates a
it's
stock
a
program
discussion
also.
board. Elizabeth.
That's the stock program. That's,
Yes,
no.
yes, but she wears two hats. She does both. But we have to find a way to find other alternatives to incarceration. There are too many people incarcerated. It's a rich study.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Well, I want
That's a
the
good,
money
that's a
to
good,
count.
good topic for you guys to undertake.
Yeah, and this is a discussion. This isn't we have to do this now. Because it's gonna be a long process and it's gonna be a slow process. And I really appreciate the work that Tom and his group have done, since the joint meeting we had. But I would like to hear Gary speak, Gary Allett, who's had some experience with the Veterans Service, doing this kind of program with the Sheriff's Department and the DA and the judge.
Good evening. I'm Gary Elliott. For some of those who don't know me, I am the Veteran Service Officer here in Stark County. Last December, I approached Judge Yackel and the Assistant District Attorney, Aaron McClue, on whether they would be interested in having a Veterans Court. Veterans Court across the nation, they're popping up across the states in different counties. And what it does is it takes veterans under the federal definition, people that have served on active duty and fall under VA benefits. It provides them an opportunity if they had a misdemeanor in alcohol or drug or had mental health issues and they've committed crimes in the misdemeanor level, to take them into the Veterans Court. It's up to the veteran at that point on whether they want to participate in a Veterans Court or stand in the normal court system. If they choose to take the Veterans Court, what usually happens is the assistant or the district attorney or the prosecuting attorney and the public defender or whatever lawyer will come to some kind of conclusion on what would be best for the community and the veteran. And what they do is they leverage the VA benefits in healthcare, whether it's mental health or drug and alcohol treatment services, and they ask the veteran to go through these services. And if the veteran goes through and achieves everything, and it's based off a medical opinion, a professional in the medical field, to whether they have an alcohol and drug abuse problem, or if they have a mental illness and they need treatment. If the provider says this is what they need to do, and the veteran follows through with this and successfully completes it, the district attorney or the prosecuting attorney normally will reduce those charges, again, misdemeanor only, down to something, equivalent to a traffic ticket for the first time offense. The whole basis of this is to keep it from repeating over and over and over with drug and alcohol type crimes. And it's been really successful across the country, and it really, depending on what you want to do with it, each county is different, even in the state of Wisconsin, on how robust of a program they have or how small of a program they have. But to reduce that recidivism and costs in the county, just manpower, even if they don't go to jail, it's reducing manpower in the county, or manpower hours, if you will. So overall costs. The judge and the DA said that they were willing to, they were very interested in doing that. So we held a meeting, I want to say in February, where we got an actual court a representative from the VA that their primary function is to go to these veterans courts through Minnesota and Wisconsin to come talk to us about the various programs that he's seen in our area. And from there, we started working on putting a program together. Now, Aaron has a complete program set up in a multi-folder sitting on his desk waiting for the go sign. So the paperwork and the formal portion of Veterans Court is ready to go. We just need to move a few more wickets, if you will, and to push this. But in the meantime, I realized we don't have any data. Sawyer County didn't have any data on how many veterans were going through our county jail or through the justice system. So I did a form up for the jailer, Lieutenant Joe, fills this stuff out, or the jail system fills this out, whether they check in, book them and release them, or if they go into jail. There's a form filled out that they walk over to me. And from that, I've been building a database to figure out what, how many veterans we have going through the system. What is basically what is the issue that got in there, and if it's a recurrent one or not. So I've been building this. The reason for the database, too, is not just to show need, but there's monies out there in federal grants out there up to $500,000 to support a system that we could apply for back to the county to support this, to be more self-sufficient. Because right now what we're doing is basically we're taking out of hide in doing what we're doing. We've had, when I wrote this yesterday, I had 26 people ID'd, and they're service members, not veterans, okay? 26 service members had been brought in, booked, and released, or are currently in jail, or went to jail. But today I showed up and I had 3 more forms in there. I can tell you from that, we have 29 service members that have come through since February when we started this, and from that 26 were males and 28 were males and 1 was a female. So we started gathering the data. We've had three veterans. I got a kick out of the first one. The assistant DA walked a veteran into my office and said, "Gary, this is Johnny. Johnny's in trouble for this. I told Johnny that if he goes and sees a medical provider and is evaluated for drug and alcohol, mental health issues. And if that's recommended, they complete the course, I'm willing to reduce the charges. And the young, so we worked through the paperwork, the young man did what he needed to do, and he's on his way. There's been two other veterans that I was able to help and do the paperwork for, where the district attorney has, basically, the veteran signs a release information where the district attorney can talk to the medical provider and make sure that the veteran's following through on what he was to do to have the charges reduced. So there's 3 people that have went through. It's an informal court right now. It's not formalized at all. So I think it's helping. You ask for success and you ask for, for success for a program. I don't know what the answer is going to be yet. So, like I said, 3 went through, and we'll see what happens from there. And as far as numbers and what's going on, Mr. Schlender is correct. The majority of the offenses have been alcohol or drug related, and some of them are repetitive drug and alcohol abuse instances. So, for this medical cost, the medical cost is paid for. We paid for them with our taxes last year. It is a VA benefit that veterans have, if the ability to use. And so it's no basically additional cost off the county. It's basically a win-win situation for the veterans and for Sawyer County. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah, to summarize, I think, Gary points out some successes in some of these alternative treatment programs, and I think as we look at...
And we have to do this. I mean, however we need to explain this, whatever needs to get done, that information is there to be presented to establish that this is that we get a positive return on this. But I want to make sure that we do this in a manner where we don't exclude other entities that can contribute. One of the things that we discussed at the Public Safety / Health and Human Services is getting other entities to buy in this. And this is the faith-based community. This is the tribal community. This would be the law enforcement community. This would be probably the educators, the people from, like the school board, or, other people who serve. We have so many silos of information, and people who safeguard it like they're the cards close to their chest and they don't want to participate. This committee and this coordinator, which is vital, would be able to be the bridge to those accesses so that the DA doesn't feel like his constitutional responsibilities are being trampled, that the judge isn't being badgered into something that flies against it. The sheriff's duties are being respected, and then we have the community have a chance to view this information and to share it. I can't emphasize enough how important this is, and the commitment, whether it's 75,000 or 750,000, this is something that needs to be contemplated. This needs to be allocated. I mean, it needs to be done.
When is the next meeting?
August 14th.
14th. I was just gonna say, we need John to pursue this coordinator position so that we have something more solid to go with. I think we need to start with that.
Yep.
I know the tribe is gonna be behind this.